superseding certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18 of the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown, all one word, .com/. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner: https://www.southboroughtown, all one word, .com/remote meetings, all one word. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. I will now call the meeting to order. First item of business is approval of the minutes, 12/10/2020.
So I did go back and look through the video, and I talked with Jeff, and I think we hashed out where the discrepancy things were. I think he was thinking of the 1/7 meeting, unless Jeff, you found something different, but I think those minutes are all set to be approved. I added the period in from the last meeting, and that's about it.
So Jeff, are you okay with the edits?
Oh, I think he was frozen. Oh, now we don't have a quorum.
Okay.
We'll wait a second.
We'll have to pause.
I'm just gonna call someone back. They left a voicemail on my work phone. I think they thought the meeting was in person, so just give me 1 second.
I got bumped there for a sec, but I'm back now.
Did you hear everything that Melissa had to say with respect to the edits to the minutes of 12/10/2020? Mr. Pete, you did not?
Nope, I'm good.
Oh, you're good with the edits? Okay. Any other edits, revisions, modifications? Nope. Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of 12/10/2020 as modified and amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor by roll call vote. We need Melissa back. This is going very smoothly.
I don't know what happened. I just got thrown off and had to rejoin.
Yeah, you froze.
Yeah.
And
no, it completely, Zoom just completely closed and I had to log in again.
Ms. Danza?
Sorry.
We need roll call vote for the
All
minutes.
right, can you hold on 1 second? I'm so sorry. Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Pasmato.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to direct this lady to our Zoom meeting. Okay, and Russ, who is not in still, had some comments about the 128 minutes, if we want to just move to the first public hearing and come back to the minutes later.
Okay. All right, so 7 p.m. 192 Woodland Road. Notice of intent and SM stormwater management permit. In accordance with the provisions of the Southborough Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southborough Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southborough Wetlands Bylaw. The Southborough Conservation Commission will hold public hearings on Thursday, February 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. by a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Silverleaf Homes, LLC, for the demolition of existing buildings and construction of 2 new single-family homes at 192 Woodland Road, map 9, parcel 24 and 28. These hearings are being held concurrently. Okay, do we have a applicant representative here?
Hello, you have Derek Wheeler with Silverleaf Homes. I am the builder, but Kevin O'Leary is our engineer. He will be much more qualified to speak to any kind of technical aspects than I am. So,
Okay, thank you.
Hi,
Mr.
this
O'Leary?
is Kevin O'Leary, and I'm present. I had a little trouble getting on the Zoom.
I see you there now.
Okay. 192 Woodland Road. It's an existing 3.4 acre lot, and I assume it's okay to talk about it a little bit, starting now.
Please.
Okay, 3.4 acre lot. It's got 325 feet of frontage. Okay, thanks, Melissa. My office prepared the site plan. I've been on this property many times to perform the testing, survey work, and associated wetland delineation. Russ Waldron from AES Environmental delineated it and submitted a wetland filing report. The project has an existing single-family house, number 192 Woodland. I don't know if anybody can see my cursor. Can you see it? No, I didn't think so. Anyway, existing house on the back, up against the back lot line, just about in the midpoint of the lot. I don't know the age of construction. My guess would be 80 to 100, 120 years old. It's got an existing asphalt driveway that comes off Woodland Road as shown, provides access to a garage on the building. To the south, the house is a little bit further to the north, some parking areas. The wetland areas that are delineated are bordering vegetated wetland bank. There's riverfront from an unnamed river, a perennial river that goes across the from east to west across the southerly border of the property as delineated in blue. And the associated 100 and 200 foot inner and outer riparian areas in yellow on the site plan. As you can see, we're proposing to use the same existing driveway in what was a former wetland crossing. There's a culvert parallel to Woodland Road. It appears to be a small 12-inch corrugated metal culvert that carries the water from the northerly BVW, which is encircled in green on the left as you come down the driveway, and conveys it to the right in an intermittent stream channel, and combines it with the perennial river further to the south. The two single-family houses that are proposed as shown are supported through local zoning, as is the common driveway for same. You could see the soil testing symbols on the plan. We were out there last, I think it was October, November, and punched test holes in to identify suitable areas. Groundwater was relatively low. Perk rates were rapid, I think around 5 minutes an inch for both. And since that point, we went forward with developing the plan to show stormwater, house placement, limited disturbance, and all site improvements associated with the wetland filing. I'm in receipt of Lucas Environmental review and have read it over, but I think that I don't have all the answers in today's hearing or for today's meeting, but I look forward to replying to Matt on those issues that he raises in his review. Again, it's an approval not required. You can see that the lots are approximately split in half, so they're each going to have about an acre, 1.7 acres in size. So they far exceed the maximum allowed by zoning, which is only in Residence B is 20,000 square feet per lot and 125 feet of frontage. So they're supersized lots, and we just place the houses where they should go or where we felt they should go with adequate spacing to accommodate utilities and resource area concerns. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. At the top of the screen, there is some test hole symbols. And I think it says proposed leaching area. Is that what that says?
Yes.
Okay. And in front of that home box there is something that's rectangle in shape. Is that for stormwater?
There are two stormwater recharge basins proposed. One is to the east or behind the proposed house, which is on lot 100N. And then there's another larger recharge basin, which is a series of rectangles surrounded by some dotted line types. And that's another recharge basin that collects the stormwater runoff that flows from the driveway and yard areas post-development.
Okay, and then down towards the bottom left of the screen, there's also some sort of a stormwater feature as well.
Yes, there's
Okay.
To that second existing house, which is lot 100S for south. There's two recharge basins that serve that proposed lot. One is on the north side of the proposed house, which catches a portion of the roof. And on the south side, there's another recharge basin that catches driveway and other portions of the proposed roof. Again, a series of rectangles surrounded with a line type of dashes or dots.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for the home that is towards the bottom of the screen, I see that a portion of that is located in the inner riparian, 100-foot inner riparian.
That's correct, yes.
Is there any reason why you need to do that? It couldn't be pulled out of that?
It's not practical to pull it out completely. There is some wiggle room to move the house around. If you look closely at the plan, you'll see that we've tried to site it and provide the infrastructure to support the house over existing developed and degraded areas on the property. And that was how we wound up with the house in that location. And we're also trying to provide spacing between abutting properties and between the proposed houses. The two proposed houses are about 60 feet apart, which again exceeds the minimum lot yard setbacks, but we thought it was, in my opinion, adequate spacing for privacy and enhancement of the property. But again, if you look closely at the screen, you'll see underneath that southerly recharge basin, there's an existing driveway in an existing garage building, which obviously will be removed as part of the project. And those are degraded riverfront areas. There's also a camper on this lot surrounded with an area that's been stripped of topsoil, and it's so labeled approximate gravel area. The garage has been used as to repair automobiles, and it's older. It sits up high on a little bit of a rise in the property, and also if you look behind the existing garage, there's a shed up against the BVW to the east, and that shed's to be removed. It's within the 20-foot no disturb area, but that's kind of the thought process of developing this plan for approvals.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt, do you want to provide any additional commentary here?
Sure. Happy to go through, at least kind of on a high level, some of my comments, I guess, for the commission's perspective. I think for starters, due to the amount of snow currently in town, it really wasn't appropriate for me to go out and review the wetland boundaries at this time. So hopefully it sounds like maybe things are going to warm up next week and some of the snow will start to dissipate, so that I can review the boundary and report on that, both the BVW boundary and the limit of bank of the perennial stream, basically everything that's shown on the plan. So that still remains to be done. Obviously an important component of the review. And just for clarity, I think I spoke to Melissa about that, and I think that's consistent with the commission's policy on winter delineations. And then really most of my comments kind of revolved around providing a little bit more clarity on the plans as far as what exactly is existing, what's existing and considered and qualifies as previously degraded under the definition of the act for areas within riverfront area. And sort of exactly what's proposed. I found the plans a little bit difficult to read. There's a lot going on there. So I think some clarity, would probably benefit everybody from that perspective. And then sort of similarly in the narrative, as far as meeting the performance standards, because we have a riverfront area on the site and we have some areas that are would appear to qualify as previously degraded and other areas that do not, really breaking down the performance standard analysis for riverfront area between those two types of development, new development versus redevelopment, because they do have different standards. The standard for new development, as you know, is no adverse impact to the riverfront area and demonstrating that the alternatives analysis has been adequately, shown for the commission to the commission's desires. And then for redevelopment, the standard is that the project has to show a net improvement to the riverfront area on the site, which is a bit of a gray area in the regulations, and obviously is again up to the commission to deem if that's been met or not. So again, I think my recommendation was really to have the applicant kind of break down in tabular form and maybe shown on a plan exactly which areas do in fact qualify as previously degraded, which areas are going to be, potentially restored. Mr. O'Leary mentioned that there's a shed in the 20-foot buffer zone that's to be removed. A little bit more clarity on what that restoration would look like if the areas are to be planted or just seeded or what have you. Another question, some other things as far as like if the existing culvert under the driveway has been inspected at all, sort of what the condition of that is, if it needs to be replaced, and if it does need to be replaced, if it can be perhaps improved in some way. Some minor comments on the BVW data sheets. And that was pretty much it. So I think, again, the wetland boundaries need to be reviewed still. Hopefully that can happen potentially before the next meeting. We'll just have to see what the weather does. And then really just, I think, cleaning up the plan a little bit and providing a little bit more detail on regulatory compliance.
All right, thank you. Other comments, questions from commission members? Mr. Smith?
Yeah, if I could. So I went through the plan a little bit, and I guess first I would say it's the engineering on it. It was wonderful to see that you used NOAA Atlas 14 data, which we appreciate. You used the 100-year storm depth of 8¼ inches, I believe. Also the delineation and assignment of ground cover types was done in a conservative fashion, which is also wonderful to see. The only question I have relates to the rain garden. Just the plans that we got, it's just kind of tough to see what's going on in the digital versions. Is it a deep sump catch basin that collects runoff from the drive?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The driveway was graded to create an artificial or a low point that's close to the existing low point,
Sure.
with earthen berms along the driveway edges to keep the water that falls on the pavement and direct it towards that proposed catch basin. The proposed driveway is slightly higher in order to shift the low point or the sag in the driveway to the east of the existing culvert, and be able to pipe it and get that infiltration basin. It's also called a rain garden, away from that 20-foot no disturb area with the grading. I think in my narratives and application, there's no stormwater controls on this property at all because of the age of it generally. And I also find on close examination that a portion of Woodland Road deposits water on this property. And as part of the development, we're gonna, work with the DPW, but we want to put a water bar along the existing driveway to keep the water from the road on the road. When and if you walk the property, you'll see that little drainage rivulets have been created along the edge of the existing driveway. And when I've been out there in the past, I've noticed a lot of road sand or salt, or mostly sand, deposited on this property coming from the roadway, right down to the head walls that carry the stream or carry the water underneath the driveway. So this driveway is going to be a big improvement with respect to, controlling the runoff, treating it, and then disposing it below grade or, to the surface, but then infiltrate to the underlying soils.
Mm-hmm. So looking at it, given that these are 1-foot contours, it's not quite as steep as we're used to seeing 2-foot contours. So it looks steep at first glance, but it's only a 1-foot contour. So it looks like you have plenty of room where you could, in the driveway apron, you could easily, give, a 4-inch rise out of the gutter line before you go down the driveway to keep road drainage in the road and keep it out of the property. I can't see the contours in the road. Is this doesn't appear to be at a sag in the roadway, correct?
It's not a significant sag, but I'm sorry, it's not a significant sag, but there is a relative low spot right at the driveway apron off the gutter line of the road. And you also see there's a sidewalk on our side of the east side of Woodland Road. The drainage area on Woodland Road that comes onto this property isn't huge, but it's enough to leave noticeable sediment deposits along the existing driveway, leading right for the culvert head walls. That's what drew my attention to it first when I was walking the property back in the fall.
You're going to coordinate with DP. So what I was saying before would just leave a puddle in the roadway, but you're going to coordinate with DPW to address that in some fashion. Okay,
yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The only thing that I saw on the plan was with regards to the rain garden. I think you're going to be coming back next meeting anyhow. Some sort of detail on that, showing. It looks like a fairly simple one, but even the the material within the rain garden, whether it's going to be mulch or be underlaid by sand or anything like that. I didn't get a time to claw through your drainage numbers to see what goes on in the bigger storms. Is there significant overflow over the berm in the big storms? Or is it mostly contained and just through infiltration?
It's contained, yeah. I have to double check the calcs too, but on the there's 3 design points for the hydrological analysis on this. And post development, there's significant reductions in peak rate and volume of runoff.
Yep, I saw that.
So specifically, I'm pretty sure that rain garden doesn't overflow. And also, I'd like to add that all the slopes that are graded on this property, all the side slopes around the houses, the driveways, everywhere, nothing exceeds 3 to 1.
Sure. No, my only concern was that if it was going to be anticipated to overtop, that some sort of armored spillway, but that sounds like that's not the case.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mute, Mark. Mark, you're on mute. I think you were trying to talk.
Oh, thank you. I am on mute. Any other comments or questions from other commission members?
I have a couple, Mark, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead, Mr. Guyer.
Looking at this, are you planning to bring in any fill to achieve these contours?
Yes.
Is that going to significantly alter our buffer area?
It won't significantly alter it, but there will be buffer zone alterations as detailed on the site grading plan.
And down at so on my screen, down at the lower portion, is that going to be filled in, that part of the riparian
Yes,
area? That will be filled, huh?
yes, there's some fill proposed to get the recharge basin in. You can see that the existing contours, they descend from the existing garage towards the river, and they look like they're probably 6 or 7 to 1 in slope. And the recharge basin, generally you want a flatter area. So I've had to play catch up a little bit with the contours to catch my 3 to 1 grade before the limit of work that's proposed. You'll also notice that there's an approximate tree line. So this site work is being performed, or is proposed to be performed, in an area that's already lawn, or it's lawn and a combination of other uses, but in general it's already in use.
Right. Just a comment on the leach field areas. I mean, has that? I suspect this hasn't been through the Board of Health yet, right?
Correct. It has not.
Yeah, it would be helpful, but we usually will not approve something unless the Board of Health has approved it. So if you come back again and we don't have the septic settled, we'll probably get into an obstacle. So you probably want to get that done
Okay.
before our next meeting if you're going to come back. You know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're not going to have septic designs approved by Board of Health by the next meeting. I'm assuming your next meeting is whatever, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
It's in 3 weeks.
Yeah, the Board of Health has been significantly backlogged on applications. We found that out in the fall.
And just to be clear, Carl, we don't, if they don't have septic approval, we don't necessarily require that for our approval.
No.
Should Board of Health require a change, then they would have to come back in front of us with an amendment. And we would have to, consider the amendment at that point in time.
Okay.
Just for clarity. So
I can also add a little bit to that, is that in preparing this site grading plan, we've been conservative with all our design sizing requirements on the septic system. So it was the intent that it's probably larger than it needs to be, anticipating that we might be able to make it slightly smaller. In that, if we come back to conservation with a change, it would be considered as insignificant.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
okay. Any other questions, comments from other commission members? Back to Mr. Smith.
Yeah, sorry, I completely forgot. I meant to mention the subsurface infiltration and rooftop infiltration. Is it all Coltech units that you're proposing?
Yes,
It is for all of them. It looks like it may be different specific Coltech units in different locations, just looking at the scaling.
Yes, correct.
So I guess at the minimum, if we could get just a call out, what Coltech units are being proposed, as well as the invert elevation of the system and the invert of pipes as they enter the system.
Sure. I think in the back of the drainage report, Mr. Smith, I think there was a cut sheet that showed the specifications, and I can double check on that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was included in the drainage report. It wasn't put on the plan because we're running out of room on the plan to put more information.
Understood.
Yeah.
The problem that I've seen is that I don't know who's going to be doing the work, but oftentimes a site work contractor will end up with just a set of plans and not the drainage report. And the engineer, unfortunately, is not always intimately involved with the project, or as involved as they would like to be, for a variety of reasons. So to the extent we can have this information, everything necessary to construct it on the plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, any other comments, questions from commission members?
Just a minor clarification, I think, on Mr. Geyer's question. So for the regrading, I guess, south of the driveway in that 100-foot riparian, is the plan to remove the trees behind that tree line, or is all the work outside of the tree line?
The work is generally outside the tree line that's delineated beyond the limit of work. The limit of work line is that, yeah, it's that line with somebody's got the cursor on it right there. Everything within that limit of work as delineated or plotted will be altered, but outside of that is not to be all. Yeah, this existing tree line as best we could estimate it during the survey.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought I heard different in your response to Mr. Geyer. So that there would be no trees removed that are outside the limit of work, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no other comments from commission members, I'll open it up to the public for any sort of comments.
If
Questions?
anyone has comments or questions, please use the raise hand feature. It should be in the bottom of your screen. And I do not see any as of right now. Nothing.
Okay. All right, so we're continuing this until the next hearing, I assume. I looked to the applicant to see if 3 weeks is appropriate or if they need more.
We'll try to make it work. I think it should be adequate.
I did have one question on Kevin's behalf. Is it appropriate for Kevin to reach out directly with your wetlands consultant to resolve any outstanding issues?
Yeah, just copy me on any emails. Just
Okay.
so I'm kept, and then you're all set.
Yep. Okay.
And I guess if the weather doesn't break and we're unable to get out there to review the wetland line, then it will probably make sense to continue it beyond the next meeting so that that can occur. Because that'll be key to moving this forward. All right, do I hear a motion to continue this hearing to, what's the next date, Melissa?
March 11th.
March 11th?
So moved?
I hear a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor by roll call vote?
Sin. She's on mute.
Yes, sorry about that.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes,
Geyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Pasmano.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, yep, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next up is the notice of intent, 5 Nathan Stone Way, map 10, lot 100, expansion of lawn into the buffer zone. In accordance with the provisions of the South Row Wetland Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaws, South Row Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the South Row Wetlands Bylaw, the South Row Conservation Commission will hold public hearings on Thursday, February 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Silverleaf Homes LLC, excuse me, for the demolition of existing buildings and construction of, well, that's the same thing. So this is, pardon me a minute. I think we have a cut and paste issue here, Melissa.
Okay. Do you want, I can read it if you'd like.
This is not Silverleaf Homes, is correct?
Correct. This is, if it ever loads. Notice of intent for 5 Nathan Stone Lane for the applicant Nick Antonopoulos. I apologize, I butchered that. The project description is expansion of the lawn into the buffer zone.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark.
Okay. Is the applicant present?
I'm Kyle McDonald, wetland scientist at Goddard Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. I believe Nick is also here. I'm
I
not sure
just
if he
moved
was.
him up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you,
Woodland.
Melissa. So with that, am I good to jump into the presentation? Do
Yes,
I
please.
have the ability to share screen, or is it best if you do it, Melissa?
As long as I have every plan that you plan on sharing, you
Okay.
can share your screen.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can get that going. Man. Can everyone see the plan that's up?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so, yep, this is a notice of intent for 5 Nathan Stone Lane. We have an existing single-family house with a small lawn, and we're proposing to expand it approximately 8,000 square feet and about 50 linear feet to the north. As far as resource areas on site, we have bordering vegetated wetland over here as well as over here. They do connect. They're just not shown because it was well off the property. There is a certified vernal pool located somewhere out that direction to the northwest. Based on Mass GIS, that's about 150 linear feet away, but I know Matt Barrow will probably talk about this a little more in depth later. He got some information from the state about when it was certified and exactly where it is. So it's not shown on this plan. It can certainly be shown in future plans if that's something that the commission would like. The other thing that we're proposing, so this is the driveway leading to the existing house, and I know the applicant would like to trim branches and remove, I think, 2 to 6 trees in that area, just as they're a little close to the house and the driveway. In that area, we wouldn't be removing stumps or anything, so it wouldn't be any ground disturbance. The ground disturbance would be here for, removal of vegetation, spreading of the topsoil and seeding to make the lawn. And the other thing the applicant would like to do is surround the lawn with a fence and or native plantings. He hasn't quite made that decision yet. I can talk to him a little bit more on if he would prefer fence or plantings, or if you guys have any opinions on that as well. We have our erosion control line here surrounding the proposed lawn expansion, and then along the driveway where they're proposing to cut the trees, we're just gonna propose orange construction fencing just as a visual barrier rather than the erosion controls, as there's not any ground disturbance in that area. I guess I'll let Matt go through his comment letter if that seems to be the best way to kind of address his comments on the project. So that's kind of just the general overview of the project itself.
Okay. Do we have a DEP number for this?
We do. It is 290-1073, and they didn't have any comments.
Thank you. Matt from Lucas Environmental, do you want to provide your comments here?
Sure. So similar to the last site, due to snow cover conditions, I did visit this site just to kind of see how bad the snow was, and also to investigate the site a little bit based on some of the information that Melissa had provided and Natural Heritage had provided. But the snow cover is, as you guys know, living in town, is pretty deep right now. So some of the last project, the Wetland Boundary, still is open for discussion, although it does look fairly consistent with what was approved way back when the subdivision was originally built in the early to mid 90s. Just a couple of points of interest, I guess. Based on the plans that Melissa had dug up from the original subdivision, the wetlands that are directly north of the property, that are kind of these low, somewhat artificial looking areas, are in fact wetland mitigation areas that were built when the road originally went in. There was a wetland crossing that required mitigation. And I don't know if these areas are sort of, I guess, in an open space parcel at this point and not on the applicant's property. Yeah, I think Melissa had said there was at least a partial certificate of compliance on the original subdivision order of conditions, and there was a individual order for this lot itself, and that has been fully closed out. So that was all good. So in addition to needing to nail down the wetland boundaries, I think the main item of discussion is this certified vernal pool question. In order to try and get a little bit more information, I reached out to the Natural Heritage Program to request the original certification forms, because typically that'll show where the vernal pool actually is in some format. Again, going back, this was certified back in, I think, 94. Oh, sorry, maybe 98, sorry. So it was somewhat predated easy GPS locating with a phone or something. So it's sort of an old-fashioned hand sketch. And in speaking to Jake Kubel at Natural Heritage, he felt that the symbol shown on the Mass GIS isn't terribly accurate, and he was actually going to probably revise that. But we chatted a little bit, looked at the aerials, and obviously there is a certified vernal pool out there somewhere, but there's certainly, just kind of looking at the aerial photographs, there's sort of numerous areas out there that appear that may provide vernal pool habitat. And the question that I have is, are these areas that were built as the mitigation that appear fairly low? There was indication of some cattail and some other marsh type species poking through the snow when I was out there. I guess the question would be is, are those areas actually serving as vernal pool habitat as well? In which case, the importance of this wooded area on the property may be more important than if it were, hundreds of feet away from the vernal pool habitat. So I think my main recommendation, especially where we're really not that far away from vernal pool inspection time, which obviously is typically in March into April, that it may be worthwhile having the applicant do some sort of a vernal pool survey to see if these areas directly behind the property are providing vernal pool habitat. The area that was certified using the presence of spotted salamander egg masses. So we know the spotted salamanders out there, it wasn't just, based on invertebrates or some maybe lesser criteria. Spotted salamanders, as we know, excuse me, will travel hundreds of feet from their non-breeding habitat to use the breeding habitat of vernal pool. So that's my main recommendation, really, is to make sure that this area that's being proposed to be converted from a pretty decent mature forested area to lawn isn't going to adversely impact some sort of vernal pool habitat back there. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, questions from Conservation Commission members?
I'm sorry, Mark. I did have one other recommendation, was for the tree cutting along the edge of the driveway, asking for a little bit more specificity on that, and potentially if there was an arborist report that had recommendations for certain trees that needed to come down, and sort of the basis of that. Sorry about that.
And those trees along the driveway that we're talking about are within the 100 feet. I can't really see how far away that is.
This is the 100-foot right here.
Okay.
This is the 20-foot.
All right.
Oh, it's somewhere around 50 feet.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any other comments, questions?
I guess I'd like to just take the opportunity to respond about the vernal pool a little bit. So I know one of the attachments to Matt's letter showed the map of kind of, let's see if I can find it. So this was an attachment that Matt had from the certification of the vernal pool. So this is our lot here, and this is what they have shown as the vernal pool. As he said, it is just kind of a, a hand sketch. It's probably not to the level of accuracy is something that we could put together today. But I did kind of look at it, and this is by no means, technical or official or anything. But if that's, that was one, if the property line here is 157 feet, just visually looking at that, that certified vernal pool looks to be at least 200 feet away from the property. So I do understand that. I looked at the aerial as well, and there are some other, areas of ponded water that you can see via the aerial. But I guess I would assume during the certification process for this vernal pool that kind of the area was generally looked at. And I believe that replication area, assuming it was built around the time of the subdivision, would have been between 1994 and 1995. And then the vernal pool study would have been later in 98. So I guess my assumption would be that there would be no additional vernal pool habitat in the area if a study was to be done. And my last comment on it would be that to my knowledge, the bylaw nor the Wetland Protection Act provide, additional protection to vernal pools rather than just bordering vegetated wetland. And then if I go back to the plan here, we're respecting the 20-foot no disturb buffer in all locations. So I guess my thought would be, even if there were additional vernal pools in here, what regulations would limit the amount of lawn that we would be able to have in that area, considering that they're not necessarily treated differently than just a traditional wetland under the local bylaw.
Is that a question?
I guess it's a partially a question, partially just, me getting my thoughts on that out there. If it's something that the commission requests, we could certainly, get out there and, late March, early April and determine if there's any other vernal pools out there. I guess the question would be what sort of, ramifications would that introduce to the project? Say there, is a vernal pool right here, considering we are already respecting the 20-foot no disturb. I guess the question would be what, further restrictions would be placed on the lot.
Well, I mean, the first step we have is we need to get out there and take a look at the wetland boundary and see where it is. Getting, given the snow cover that we've got, that we need to have some of that recede to be able to open up the ground so it can be reviewed. So that's I think what's immediately in front of us.
Understood.
So to that end, I'll open this up to anybody from the public that wants to comment or question. There's any hands raised, Melissa?
I do not see any hands raised. If you would like to comment, please use the raise hand feature in the lower portion of your screen. And I do not see any.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue this to the next hearing and hope the snow has some melting between now and then, and we're able to get out there and take a look at it. Do I hear a motion to continue to the next meeting, which is March 11th?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Passamoto.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, 730 Ruby Estates, NOI and SMP. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Southfield Wetlands Bylaw and Southfield Stormwater Erosion Control Bylaw, The Southwood Commission will conduct a continued public hearings on Thursday, February 18th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider 6 notice of intents and stormwater management permit for a project located at 96 Mount Vickery Road to be known as Ruby Estates, map 28, lot 18, for the applicant Bartolini Properties. The project description is construction of a roadway and associated stormwater features for a 6-lot residential subdivision. These public hearings are being held concurrently.
Good evening, Nathan Mahonen with Bowler Engineering and Mike Bartolini from Bartolini Properties for the project tonight.
Okay.
Let me just share the screen here, one moment. There we go. Get that up there. So since the last time we were in front of the commission, the applicants made some significant efforts to address comments received at the last meeting, as well as from the peer reviewers. Revised plans, information, and calculations have been submitted accordingly that address those comments. And they also include some plan changes that address comments received from the planning board during their permitting process as well. Take a few minutes here to run through several of those updates, including the first here, which is the first exhibit I have up on the screen, to talk about the comment from the last hearing where it was discussed to locate and show 15-inch or greater, deciduous, quote unquote, legacy type of trees within the 100-foot buffer zone. The applicant actually went a little bit further on those locations, and we've located and shown trees that are 12-inch in diameter or greater within deciduous trees, 12-inch diameter or greater, that are within the 100-foot buffer zone. The current graphic that's up on the screen, just for reference, the light gray line here is the limit of work on the project. The interior green line is the wetland line. First dash green line is the 20-foot buffer. Exterior dash green line is the 100-foot buffer. As you can see, as we go through this, majority of the 100-foot buffer area has been cleared of larger diameter trees due to the previous use that was on the site. The trees to remain as part of the project are highlighted with these green symbols here. The ones that are removed are shown with the gray symbol in those 2 locations there. But as you come from the street down through the site, you can see the majority of the 100-foot buffer zone has been cleared. And we're actually maintaining a large majority of the existing 12-inch and larger diameter trees within the 100-foot buffer. All in all, we're saving approximately 64 of 77 trees within the 100-foot buffer that are 12-inch or greater, which relates to about 83% of the total tree of that size diameter within the 100-foot buffer zone. Inside the limit of work, we've noted approximately 14 trees that we're going to target for saving, as discussed at the last meeting. Those are within the limits of the lot and the limit of work. They are going to be targeted to be saved, again, as discussed at the last meeting, depending upon the health of the tree and so forth. When we get out there on site, some of those trees may have to come down. We obviously don't want to leave a safety hazard for a home or somebody else in the area there. Wrong one. Relative to the disturbance within the 100-foot buffer zone, the houses on each lot have been pushed up to the front yard setback that's required underneath zoning. So all the homes have been pushed as close to the street as possible. The lots 1, 2, and 3, which are the first 3 on the plan left here, have had 10-foot foundations, non-standard foundations implemented onto the design in order to reduce the fill required for those 3 lots, as well as to be able to pull in the grading on the back of the lots and reduce the amount of disturbance within the buffer zone. Lots 4 and 5 have also been pulled back to reduce the amount of disturbance in the buffer zone in the lower area here. Lot 5 was a little bit more restricted, obviously, because that's where the stormwater basin is located. The changes here provide really the maximum amount of retained buffer zone while trying to maintain a usable yard and kind of a usable product for each of the lots and the future homeowners. All in all, the changes reduce the buffer zone impact by around 10,000 square feet. And we're currently leaving about 41% of the buffer zone in its current state. This is an increase from the 32% that was presented at the last meeting. The project has also incorporated some LID techniques that were really result of the planning board process and planning board comments. I can run through any of them in detail or if there's any questions or so forth, but in general, they include a roadside swale in lieu of curbing to direct the stormwater from the roadway down to the infiltration basin. There's a bioretention area that's been added to the center of the cul-de-sac of the road to provide some additional vegetative treatment of runoff as well as to reduce impervious cover. And each of the lots have incorporated underground storm tech chambers to capture the rooftop runoff from approximately half of the roof area for the 1-inch storm event, and put that in the ground and provide some more decentralized infiltration throughout the site. The stormwater calcs that were submitted account for all of these, and an updated operation and maintenance plan has been provided that reflect these new features. So those are fully accounted for in the operation and maintenance plan. And then really lastly, relative to plan changes, there were some specific comments from the commission members at the last meeting relative to the location of the sediment basin and how and where that was going to be sited. Those have been addressed so that those are relocated and they're outside the footprints of the infiltration basin at the back of lot 5. And the perimeter controls have been updated to show straw wattles and note that they're to be hay-free. So those have been adjusted and modified on the plans. And then outside of the information that was submitted, we did receive an updated review letter from Fuss & O'Neill, basically stating that they've gone through it and that they didn't feel that there was any further review required on their end and that we had addressed what they were looking for. On Matt and Lucas's end there, I haven't seen a formal letter yet, but I believe he's been out to the site again, had a chance to take a look at the information. So I'll let him speak a little bit more to where he is on his review process, and happy to answer any questions that he might have tonight. And kind of lastly, on the review portion of it, the plans and the response to comments fully address the 4 or 5 comments that were received from DEP as part of the notice of intent filings. So where we are at tonight, I believe the applicants made some great strides and shown some significant effort in addressing the comments from the commission, and happy to turn it back over to the commission and answer any other questions, comments that anybody may have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Farrell from Lucas Environmental, you have any commentary here?
Yeah, just a few things. I was able to take a look through the plans. I did visit the site this morning just to take a look at the tree survey and look at some of the other portions of the site, again, best I could, again, with the snow out there, but obviously the wetland boundary was all previously approved. I think the tree survey, as far as showing the hardwood trees, was fine. I just want to bring to the commission's attention that there are numerous other trees out there, primarily pines and some firs. I just want to make sure the commission doesn't, they shouldn't look at this plan, see the little green and gray dots and think that those are the only trees out there. But certainly as we had discussed at the last meeting, trees that are likely to be of any value for preservation are going to be the hardwoods. The pines that are out there are fairly significant. A lot of them are at least 18 to potentially 24 inches in diameter. So there's some good size trees out there through the buffer zone as well, but understanding that when you start thinning out the forest and putting in trees, the pines are unlikely to survive long term. I just wanted to point that out. A couple other comments on the response from Bowler. One question I had, I guess, on the drainage, with the improvements that you've made or the additional, BMPs you've made with the low impact design as far as the infiltration for the individual homes and then the basin that's within the cul-de-sac. I know you didn't necessarily include that in the calculations with any intention of reducing the size of the main basin that's at the southern portion of the site. But I guess my question would be is, you know, is it to the point now where you feel it's over-designed at all, where that basin could be smaller? Again, just thinking about reducing, further reducing impacts within buffer zone at all?
Yeah, if I may, I'll answer that one first, and I'd like to go back to the comment on the pines. So relative to the infiltration basin, to kind of step back through them, the bioretention basin that's added in the center of the cul-de-sac is for pretreatment of stormwater. We need to line it and allow the water to be treated and filtered through the media in order to get the 44% required pretreatment prior to infiltration. So we're not really getting any stormwater retention there. It's really just for capturing, treating, and then conveying into the infiltration basin. And the smaller systems themselves were excluded from the peak rate mitigation because they're just intended really for infiltration of the lower storm events, the more frequent storm events, the 1-inch rooftop runoff. They're smaller in size to allow for proper siting of the septic systems and provide proper setbacks to foundations, to wetlands, and so forth. So they were excluded from peak rate mitigation because they are intended really just for infiltration purposes and to provide a little bit more of a low impact development. The basin itself is sized. There's always a little bit of extra design put into it because of construction tolerance and making sure that the as-built basin will work once it's fully done and built, because there's always a little bit of tolerance on field side of things. So at this point in time, we feel that the basin's designed adequately and it's not, substantially oversized where it's putting in a, undue amount of additional impact to the buffer zone. Relative to the pines, bear with me one moment here. We actually did locate the pines as well. I know the focus on the last meeting was the deciduous type of trees, the legacy, the ones with the shade and so forth. And the discussion was that the individual conifers have a hard time really surviving after it's thinned out, just because of the type of root system. It's shallow, it really spreads out like a plate, so they're subject to blowdown if you really don't have a good group of pines or conifers in one area. But we did locate the conifers just so that the applicant had them. This here is an updated version or an additional version of the buffer zone plan that I just showed. The deciduous are still shown in green. The conifers have been added in blue. The conifers to be removed are the same symbol, but just the light grayed out area here. Relative to what's in the buffer zone, they're really spread out for the most part. There is a section near the existing shed that's in this area here. And then there's another section really in here that is in between lots 2 and 3. The remaining portion are really of the 12-inch, again, 12-inch in diameter and larger, are within the closer limit to the buffer, or excuse me, closer limit to the wetland, and in between the 20-foot buffer and the exterior limit of work. Looking at all the trees in total, both coniferous and deciduous, we're saving 109 out of 151 trees approximately, or about, again, 72% of the total trees 12-inch in diameter, both coniferous and deciduous, within the buffer zone. So the main focus at the last meeting was just discussion of the deciduous, but while we were out there, we did feel it pertinent to get the coniferous as well, and kind of evaluate those and make sure that we were taking those into account on the design.
Okay, thanks, Nathan.
You're welcome.
Couple other questions. I noticed on the plan, can you bring up the grading plan again? There were a couple spots. I think one was behind lot 4 where there was seemed like there was some grading shown that maybe was unnecessary. You zoom in on 4, there was like a proposed grade line. Sorry, I guess it's number 5 maybe.
5 is the basin, 4 is here, and then
no, go up the next one up. Yeah, so see that grade line that's like right at the erosion control proposed,
Yep.
yeah, right there. I wasn't sure if what that was about? Just
So
seemed
the-
kind of random.
Yeah, so the house elevation, when you come down to the back for a walkout, the back elevation is around 301. So this is just to catch up to existing grade. We're right at 300 right there. So that's really just to provide positive pitch away from the foundation.
Okay.
And it's really the minimum distance we need to get away from the house box before we're at existing grade and be able to pitch water away from the foundation.
All right, so where we have those 3 trees there that are presumably, the goal is to preserve those.
Correct.
That potentially will take some careful grading in that area to make sure those trees are preserved.
Correct. They're about elevation 301, which is again about the back of the building. So we'd be grading down, probably 6 inches or less in those areas. But you're correct, as that's being fine graded, they'll just have to take some care as they're working around the base of those trees. And the plans do call out for, trying to establish tree protection fence around the trees to be remain, so that those can be protected and established, protected and maintained during construction.
And then the only other question I had was, you talk about the using the conservation wildlife seed mix.
Mhm.
And I couldn't see in the plan, so if there was a landscape plan or anything that showed exactly sort of where that seed mix would be used.
So there was a separate exhibit submitted with it. I'll pop that up here as well. Again, it's on the outside of the site. Shown on this plan here, this is the grading plan with the wildlife seed mix shown in green. The areas where we're tighter on the back of the yards now because of the reduced fill and the reduced slopes, and we're providing, really an additional preserved buffer in addition to the 20-foot that we had originally targeted, are going to be regular lawn and landscape up to the tree line. The areas in green that we targeted near the front and the back of the site are areas that are disturbed between really the basin and the tree line, and then other area kind of adjacent to it where there was some existing disturbance out there now where we felt we could seed it and provide just an additional enhancement to that, maintained buffer zone. And the same thing up front here. This is all existing area that's currently used under the, the former home and so forth that were up front that could use some additional seeding in that area, kind of let that stabilize and become, not stabilize, establish and come back to more of a, natural wildlife type of state within the buffer zone. So those were really the 2 areas that we targeted. It's around 11,000 square feet of total buffer zone that we'd be looking at seeding with that mix.
Okay, and in those areas, is there any discussion in the operations or maintenance plan of any kind of maintenance of those areas, or those areas left to just go 100% natural and never be mowed in the future?
There's no discussion of maintenance. There's intended to be left natural. So the only maintenance would be adjacent to it, really kind of on the side slopes for the detention basin as needed.
Okay. So, all right. So then I guess my last comment, this would be more for the commission, or I guess for you, Nathan. I don't know if you're proposing any sort of signage or anything, or just throwing it out there for the commission to consider. And again, I applaud the applicant. I think this is a much better plan than we last saw. But where everything is sort of less of a steep slope now, which is good, but I think potentially lends itself more to lawn creep, and if there's need for signage or something to delineate really where that permanent limit of work is, so that future homeowners understand that their lawn is what it is and not to be expanded closer to the wetland. That was all I had.
All right, thanks, Matt. Any other questions, comments from conservation members? Yes, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, first, as Matt said, I just want to acknowledge that clearly the applicant listened to our comments and took it seriously. And in particular, the changes pulling the houses further away from the wetland and making the foundation changes so that to lessen the grading impact behind the houses, I think is a great change to the plans. I'm really glad to see it. The only question I had was regarding the rooftop infiltration, and this is just a technical question. Are you proposing 2 of the Storotech chambers for each rooftop? There are 2 of them called out in the remaining 4. I just want to make sure, is that the?
Yeah, it's the same size system per lot. So each lot will have that 2-chamber system.
Okay. And I see in the call out the details of those you're anticipating to provide on the septic plans.
Correct. Each house lot's going to need its own detailed septic design plans showing the grading of the lot, the home, and obviously all the septic components. Those systems would be detailed out on there with cross-sectional details of the underground system as well as elevations of the systems themselves.
Okay. Yeah, and then do you anticipating incorporating all of this, both the septic and the final detailing on the rooftop infiltration, into are you going to be issuing a construction set of plans that will incorporate all of that information?
So the construction set of plans essentially for each lot will be the septic design plans. It'll have all the information that the contractor will need for each individual lot.
Okay. And then we'll also, I just want to make sure that the plans that get to the site work contractor, contain everything that we've discussed here. For another one, for instance, would be the trees that you're making an effort to retain here. That those be called out on that plan as well.
They would.
Just don't want anything to sort of fall off the table. Okay.
No, understood. The intent would be that the septic plans would service as the construction design plans for each of the lot. They'd include grading, septic, the design of the underground system. They'd call out the trees that we've talked about. They'd show the appropriate erosion control details again as well.
Okay. And this is something that I'm sure would happen regardless, but just to say it. So this is a plan set that would be for each lot and then for the roadway. Well, I get the roadway obviously not getting a septic plan, but would be provided to Melissa at the pre-construction meeting, so that she can go through it quickly to make sure that it's consistent with what we've discussed.
Absolutely. Yeah, once it goes through Board of Health and it's approved for the septic design, we can certainly provide copies to Melissa.
Okay, I think that's something I would be looking at maybe as a condition when we get to that point. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions from other commission members?
Mark, if I could.
Go ahead, Carl.
I want to also echo that I appreciate changes that you've made, and it's probably going to be I think it's going to be a lot nicer condition for the homeowners too. My only comment is I want to reinforce Matt's comment about making sure that that the new homeowners will understand where the limit of work is, right? So that they don't wind up with the area that we're trying to naturalize doesn't become lawn or something like that. So if you can do something like that, that would be a good idea. And even more important is the 20-foot no touch. So I don't know how, I don't have a specific idea on how to do that, but we certainly want them out of keep them out of the 20-foot no touch, and probably some way to make sure that they don't disturb the area we're trying to naturalize. But that's my only comment. I appreciate your changes. I really do. Thank you very much. That's enough for me.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
I guess I would just say that the 20-foot no touch we've in the past have monumented with pheno stakes as a condition of approval. Yeah,
I would just make a comment. I believe that this developer developed Leeds Way and is familiar with similar sort of conditions that we put out there where they put markers, out in the field lots, if you will, to protect what Carl and Ben you're talking about with respect to encroachment of the 20-foot. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, anything from the public on this, Melissa?
I don't see anything. If anyone would like to make a comment, again, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. And I do not see any hands.
Okay. Let's see. We've received Fussell O'Neill's comments. I think we've received Lucas Environmental. I haven't heard that there's anything left open with respect to this project or design, and thinking we can close the hearings.
My only recommendation, and only because we're meeting virtually, I know we want to close it, but we'd have to issue the decision. If we closed it, I'd have to hand it to them at the next meeting. And I do not have some of the conditions drafted. So I think administratively would be the only holdup for tonight.
So
Do you get what I'm trying to say? Just because we have to issue it within 21 days. So if we closed it tonight, we would have to physically hand it to them after our meeting next on the 11th.
yeah, so I guess I'm missing something.
So
so if we close
so
it,
basically I can't meet that physical 21 day deadline to get them their permit if we close it and approve it at the next meeting, or if we close tonight and wait to issue at the next meeting, because that's exactly 21 days. And the COVID extension is no longer.
I got the COVID extension no longer. Is that for the stormwater or the order of conditions?
Order of conditions.
But if we had time tonight to draw up the order of conditions and vote on that would work, or no?
Yeah, that would work if you guys are comfortable going through them. As long as you're comfortable with all the comments from the peer reviewers.
Discussion from other commission members. If you're doing these meetings virtually, they build up over time. So I'm trying to move things along and get items off our agenda rather than having them hang on if they don't need to be. If you follow me. Doing these meetings via Zoom, takes more time.
Actually, if I may, sorry. So if what you just described at the end there, if we could, if we had the time tonight to go through and talk about the conditions so that we could draft that to a point where it could be voted on tonight and really everything closed out, it would be greatly appreciated. I know the applicant's been here for a few meetings now and would love to get this closed out. To step back to the 20-foot buffer, speaking with the applicant, I know they've done the markers along the 20-foot no touch, and they're acceptable to that. So
yeah, that's something we've typically made a part of the a condition in the order of conditions. So I'm looking for other recommendations from the commission with respect to this project here.
I'm fine with what you proposed. I think we can talk through the conditions and whatever we're talking about adding to the standard conditions, and that would give us enough information to make a vote on it and give Melissa what she needs to get it typed up for our signature. We would all have to just pop in to sign before the next meeting, but we've done that before.
You don't even need to sign them. We have electronic.
We passed the.
That's right. Forgot all about
the
it.
virtual
Never
signature.
have to see you again.
Yep.
So yeah, it's not the signature that's the problem. It's just the 21 days of physically getting it to them.
Mhm.
If Melissa's good with it, I'm good with it.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to close the, which one should we do first, Melissa? The stormwater or the NOI?
It really doesn't matter.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to close the stormwater management permit hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Passamano.
Yes.
And then
Okay,
the
do I hear a
only one
motion
with
to
the-
close the notice
sorry,
of
the only one
intent?
with the NOIs is that there's
There's 6 of them.
Yes. And it's 290-1067 through 1072.
Thank you. I didn't have that in my notes. So do I hear a motion to close the NOIs for the 6 lots that Melissa just mentioned?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay, do I hear vote by roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Passamano.
Yes. Okay. Next up is 730 Bigelow Road NOI, and that has been continued. So we need to vote to continue this to the March 11th. Is that when they want to continue it to? March 11th?
Yes, yeah. He's hoping to have
The
it
March
finished by
11th
then.
meeting. The reason for continuance is they are completing a survey and getting some other items lined up to come back in front of us. Looking for a motion to continue.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Passamano.
Yes.
Right. And Mark, do you want to do the conditions for these after we hit the next 2 items that are on the agenda?
Yes. In case
Okay.
there's public waiting to discuss anything or have questions.
Nathan, are you here for Deerfoot?
I am. I believe Pat's
Okay.
supposed to be here as well.
Yep.
Okay, this is the amendment to DEP 290-1016, 141 Deerfoot.
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to wait to see Pat join here. So for the record, again, Nathan Mahoney with Bowler Engineering, Pat Flynn from Brendan Homes for minor change request to number 141. And there it is. Share screen. Bring this up. This is the approved design plan for number 141, where the applicant had agreed to install, again, one of those small depressions next to the road, or excuse me, next to the driveway and the edge of Deerfoot Road to capture and infiltrate some stormwater that might run from the lawn and the kind of front portion of the driveway here and allow it to infiltrate into the ground. This was really just an added measure through the review process beyond what was required from the state regulatory requirements. Since the construction, the homeowners have moved in and they have put kind of a substantial investment into a front landscaped berm that's generally highlighted in red on the design plan here. And switching over, this is really a photo view of what that berm looks like adjacent to where the depression was going to be in this area here. So in the spirit of what really was approved under the original plans, the homeowner is going to extend the berm in this fashion here a little bit further towards the driveway to really build up this area and allow it to hold back and detain and infiltrate any water that's running down to that low area in lieu of putting in the depression. And from an engineering standpoint, and viewing it on site and the way that the water runs in this area now, we feel that it's going to act as a replacement for that infiltration area. It's noted really that since this vegetation's been put in and the lawn's been seeded, the vegetation is doing a great job of really taking up that water and getting it into the ground, or obviously into the root system, into the vegetation itself. The intent would be to, again, extend this berm here, and then this berm would be reflected on the as-built plan for the certificate of compliance, and it would be noted and discussed in the request for the certificate of compliance. So it would be outlined again in that for documentation. We did meet with Melissa on site, kind of run through and look at this area. I don't want to put any words in her mouth, but I believe she was just kind of generally in conformance or in agreement with what we're talking about and discussing, that this would be a nice alternative to the depression that would provide, nice landscaped area here, and provide some additional retention, infiltration of, water that's running across the lawn, and keep it out of Deerfoot Road. With that, that's really what we're looking at doing on the lot. We'd like to turn it back over to the commission, see if there's any thoughts or comments relative to the proposal that the homeowner and the developer would like to do.
I have one. Was this photo really taken on the 30th of January of this year?
Yes, this was John Cusick from our office was out there on site. He's the one that took the photo and put the sketch together.
Must have been the day before it snowed.
It's been right before the snowstorm.
Looking at the green grass and no snow, and looking at the date, saying,
yeah,
only 18 days ago or 19 days ago.
Fortuitous timing for sure.
So
Go ahead.
I have a question. Yeah. So this looks like a good solution or a good option here, but so. And maybe I don't have a clear recollection. I thought that Deerfoot property we were talking about that had the problem with the infiltration and the stormwater runoff was 139. Is that
You're right.
a different issue?
Yeah, so there were two separate lots that were had this small area adjacent to the driveway as part of the original approvals. 139's a little bit further up the road towards 9. This is the one that's at the end of Deerfoot. And this is the alternate that this homeowner has come up with and wants to do.
So is this a possibility for 139?
Well, that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, that's outside of this and would be up to the homeowner on that lot.
Okay, I understand, Mark. I'm just trying to get, just so I'm clear then. So this is not an issue that we've discussed previously at the Conservation Commission. It was 139 that was discussed previously. This is
It's the same issue, but a different lot. So this
Right.
is their proposal to fix the issue, and then 139 will come back in the spring, I believe, with their proposal.
But we've not talked about 141 as an issue at the Conservation Commission before, correct?
Right, yeah, I think 139 went first and they got that answer. So now they had some landscaping already, so they kind of have an easier answer to propose now, versus 139 is going to wait a little bit longer to come up with a different proposal, but it could be something similar or it could be different.
Okay, great. Sorry, yeah, just trying to connect all my dots here. Good, thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Weber. I just wanted to see if I could interject here. I am the homeowner.
Yeah, hang on. We're not done with
Is
the
that
commission
okay?
comments. We'll get to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just hang on one second.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was going to give you some more insight as far as what was done. Do you want any of like the height of the berm and things like that?
Are you the homeowner of 141?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So when we came into it, we've owned the home for 2 years now, and unfortunately, we're not notified of what was originally proposed. So I apologize. We ended up building a 3-foot berm. Just, we thought aesthetically it was pleasing, but it turns out that I think it will be a good solution for everything. We also have a rock barrier along the outside wall of that berm with very, very large rocks to keep the berm in place. We didn't want anything running into the road. which has been withholding for a while now. I think we put this in midsummer or so, but this area was never, I know there's been a lot of water issues on Deerfoot Road. This wasn't one of them, actually. It ended up being after construction, but we still added all that just because we knew that it was kind of a hot issue on the road and didn't want to disturb anything. And then alongside that, you see there's already a deep rock depression in there. It's a rock garden that we already put in, which is a foot down to channel any possible runoff from the berm, which is also protected with rocks in front of it from approaching the road. And I just will say that we actually have seen no water, kind of feels silly at this point from our perspective because we spent a lot of money on it, but there is no water rolling that way at all at this point. It goes actually more towards our house, if any. I actually haven't seen any water over there at all, but if there was to be any, the direction would be away from the road. So I just wanted to add that information.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, hearing none. So is there any reason we shouldn't just go ahead and approve this?
Not on my side.
When would you do the work? Sometime in the spring?
We were going to coordinate with Brendan Properties, hopefully early spring. It would just be an extension of that berm, just to ensure, because there was an ask before. We wanted to make sure that there was no issue whatsoever.
We would do it first in the spring as soon as we
Yeah.
could.
Mm-hmm.
Who was that spoke?
Pat Flynn from Brendan Properties.
Oh, okay. So this requires an amendment vote, Melissa?
Or just administrative.
Administrative?
Yes. Yep.
All right, so I'd be looking for a motion to approve this this proposed extended berm.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor via roll call vote?
Then
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay, the discussion on the invasive mitigation at 6 Newton Street has been continued. So we will not be talking about that this evening. Next item was 84 Main Street, update from the owner and discussion of status.
Yes, let me move in. I see both John, Deli, and Peter. So this is, the commission asked them to kind of give an update on some of the things they had been seeing and follow up on some of the past violations and issues. So they agreed to come to this meeting to provide that update and have some rough sketches to show the commission.
Okay.
It's Peter Bemis here. John, I think you're probably on mute. But I know John's here as well, and I did email Melissa a couple of sketches just so there was at least a talking point for this. Do you mind bringing those up, Melissa? Okay, thank you.
Peter, you might want to adjust your camera down a little bit. We can just see your eyes and forehead.
I'm sorry, thank
There
you.
you go, thank you.
I wasn't looking at what I look like. So,
Peter, before we get
Actually, put your camera back to where it was. Only kidding.
Thank you, Mark. All right, John, you want to speak first? Go right ahead.
I just trying to get on there with my picture. I don't know, but I guess you don't need to look at me. What's the trick to get on there with the picture, Melissa?
There should be, it'll ping you maybe now to start.
I'll
your
start my
camera.
video. There we go.
Yep.
Yes, there you go.
Okay. I've only done this unassisted twice, Usually I have somebody helping me because I'm a in-person guy, I guess. But
Well, this is all I do now, John.
I know it's the whole world is just crazy. Before we get started, I just wanted to give you, I haven't seen you in so long. I just wanted to give you an update of where the overall development, where I am in the scope of things, if that's helpful. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman? Just a brief.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, the entire 5 acre lot, it's 4.9 acres, we'll call it 5, is completely stabilized, vegetated. The pond out front is working exactly how we had hoped. I plan on having substantial completion of everything sometime in June. That would be the wrap up of certainly everything on the exterior. I'm still finishing a few things on the interior. I just wanted you to know that everything is coming along. We have to do the final coat on the driveway, and Peter's going to go through a few things tonight to, on the slopes and on the rain gardens and a few other items. But I just wanted you to know that pond that we created there is working like a charm, and it's really providing nice site retention and cleaning the water, and there hasn't been. I just want the board to know that there hasn't been one pebble that's left that property, one teaspoon of silt into that waterway, and the entire time I've been involved. But especially now, because it's all, we still have the wattles and everything, but it's all vegetated. I hope you realize that. I'm sure you drive by and notice, but I just wanted to be sure you knew. I took great care of that. I have hired, they've been there, there'll be the 4th trip this year, tree specialists out of Hopkinton who does a lot of the Olmsted properties throughout Eastern Mass and in Boston. They're coming back again to do some additional tree pruning, and I've put an awful lot of money into the monumental trees. I mean, 10, I think just in that one beech tree, I've got 12 grand, 15 grand into it, just in fertilizing and pruning and everything else. So I've put an awful lot of money into the monumental trees to preserve them and to really get deep rooting, aeration and everything else. It was a tremendous amount of work. They are coming back in the February this month to finish up the pruning and so on. So I've really tried to keep up with everything and keep it all perfect. So that's really where it is. I just want to, figure out the rest of it. And then my goal is to, when the weather breaks and you think it's the engineer and you folks feel it's appropriate to finish up with the last few steps, then I would like to do that. And then, come see you maybe in the fall for a certificate, hopefully. So that's kind of what I'm after. And oh, by the way, I'm moving into the house, just for lack of just transparency. I've sold my properties on the South Shore, and I'm moving into the home. I can't, with COVID and everything else and all the other stuff I'm not going to deal with running it. I just can't run an inn with all that. It's just too complicated. So that's what's happening.
All right. Well, thanks for the update. I was looking forward to staying there someday.
I'll certainly walk you through, anybody's welcome for that, and walk you through the gardens. I've put an awful lot of effort into it. And I have still a lot more roses I want to put in. I know you think I'm out of my mind, Mark, with all the landscaping, but the pruning but I really enjoy it. So there it is.
Thank you.
Peter?
Who are you, Peter?
Yep. So again, just some crude sketches, but I thought we should have at least some talking points, and there's obviously some more work to do here. So I've got sketch 1, which will be the first exhibit, which was an 8.5 by 11 that we had revised when this was initially submitted. We were using the rain garden the way the previous consultant had suggested it. We just had refined a number of details with our plan. And then sketch 2 will bring you to the other side of the property. And there's just a second drawing that we had done for a well improvement. But I don't have all the pieces on one piece of paper. So for sketch 1, Yeah, thank you, Melissa. For sketch one, I wanted to bring to your attention that we had proposed a filter strip to gather water coming off the driveway. We had actually done an as-built survey. And John had just approached me the other day and said he thought it would be better suited if the rain garden was on the, this would be the west side of the cottage. We had proposed a smaller version of the rain garden on the east side, where he had proposed some plantings. So the plantings would still stay. It just makes sense to probably keep the filter strip there to obviously gather the water, but the rain garden may be better suited going on the west side. I was planning on doing a site walk with Melissa prior to the start of construction on this so that we both would concur. We establish the limits of the rain garden, follow the same details, make sure the same volumes are present, but lay it out so that it's going to work properly. That's the main thing. The walk hadn't been built when we did our initial work here. The cottage certainly was there. So we kind of pieced in where those things would go. And now those improvements are there. So we can make sure that we're expanding the rain garden as large as possible, but also accommodating the improvements that are there. The other aspect of this is John happens to have a 19th century arbor. And most people think of an arbor that you walk under. This arbor is probably more like a trestle.
It's actually a small pergola, Peter.
Pergola, all right, a pergola. So what we plan to do is set that up behind the cottage with your authorization. And just for purpose of discussion, there are horizontal elements with vertical structure to support those elements, and you grow vines on them.
Yeah, let me say where it came from. So I was born and grew up in Newton Corner, and my parents had an old Victorian there, and there was a huge arbor in the back, which collapsed. Back in those days, a lot of people weren't that interested. So my father removed it. He was afraid it was going to collapse, and he left it. And when the house was sold many decades later, can you hear me all right? So when the house was sold, just before it was sold, I reclaimed the arbor, the pieces that were viable. The house was built in 1860, and the arbor was dated from that period. I mean, the pergola. And I'd like to, just recreate a small piece of it and put some wisteria and some climbing roses on it. And so that's just as a little, as you walk out the cottage. I thought it would be a nice piece if you go along with it. But anyway, it's up there. You can see the pieces. I mean, it's not erected. It's on a pallet, waiting for approval this spring. But that's the background of it. It is a period piece. It's a very special piece. But anyway, go ahead, Peter.
And then, so in the second sketch, I'll outline and I'll come back to the pergola. Okay, so on the second sketch, sketch 2, I've identified there's a stone and batten board utility building that's going in to the left of the driveway as you're coming up at Deerfoot, with some associated mechanical systems. One is the infrastructure to support the well that was installed that supplements water in the pond during the dry season. And then there's also a transformer that was installed in a gen set for the building here. There's an existing overhead wire that comes in off the utility pole. Again, to bring this more into the period, that overhead wire would be eliminated. And they're going to go underground service to the carriage house.
That's all done, Peter.
And that's done. Okay. So I have not been by to see some of these things.
Right. So let me just give me the floor for one. Give me the floor for. I'm sorry, Peter. I don't know how this thing works with who's talking, but so when the underground utilities are put in, I worked with a power company. They have very specific requirements. That particular transformer that you see there has the containment pad had to be built around it because of my retention or my enhancement of the pond I created. So that was required because it's near this water body. So that was done, and that's going to be fully vegetated around, so you're not going to see it. It's going to have evergreen trees around it, which is allowed. You'll see yellow bollards there right now, but those will be encapsulated with vegetation around them. Then you're going to see a small building there, and in that building is the switch gear, the main electric disconnects, all the internet interfaces. And that's really where everything connects, because everything through the whole site is distributed underground, and also a 300 kW generator is in there. So all that is covered in there. And aesthetically, the wall that faces the Deerfoot Road is stone to match verbatim the house. And then there's board and batten that matches the cottage, the slate roof. And then on the other end is stone, and on the back is board and batten with encapsulated lattice to let the whole building breathe. It is not an occupied building. It's nothing more than a fancy way of just basically disguising all this modern equipment that's required to support this property. That's what it is. It's just a way of, so everything's underground. All that's all done. There's nothing else to do there. It's just going to be, we're just finishing up the building, with the weather permitting as we go along. The stone just got finished today on the gable on both sides. That's what that is. Go ahead, Peter. I just want to make sure they understand.
Did you say 300 kilowatts?
300 kW to run that whole property. In the event you want to run everything simultaneously.
Run half the town.
That's
pretty big.
A megawatt. Yeah.
No, 300 kW, not
yeah.
KW.
That's still a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a third of a meg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Okay.
I just
so
I wasn't sure I heard the number right. So thank you.
So we'll need an as-built for that area, which I would anticipate doing again once the weather breaks enough here. And then there's a sunroom that was originally shown to you on the Borden plan. Again, the consultant that was prior to our involvement in the project, when you issued your original decision. And then adjacent to that, John would like to install a 20 by 40 pool. And I mentioned to Melissa that the position of that pool is probably hovering very close to the edge of the buffer zone. We may encroach 5 feet, 10 feet. So if we were to encroach at all with any activity, I would just come back to you with a separate RDA filing, because we're at the edge of that improved area. And
it's very, very close, Mark. Very, very close, within a foot or two, I think.
So we'll do the RDA, and then that would be the other opportunity to then address the pergola at the cottage, because I don't expect to just go do that. I would give you a plan and show you the detail of it. John was trying to describe it to me, and I really didn't know its exact dimensions. I just know it's going to be in the same relationship as the cottage itself as far as its width. And then I just didn't know how far off the back of the building it would extend. We thought about 10 feet, but I'll give you that exact detail. So I'm not expecting to just get that approved. I just want you to know that these are the pending items, other than the one that we've discussed before, which is the invasive management along the bank, which is this plan is also identifying that. And then the wildflower planting, it would be done again as soon as this weather breaks. We'd want to do that pretty close to the recession of the snow. Even if the ground's still frozen to some extent, it would be a good time to do that. I know Russell he's had experience planting wildflower seed. I didn't, and so I did some research, and there were kind of 2 periods of time with which to do that, and the more preferred was that period in the spring while the ground was at freeze thaw was the best opportunity to do it. So we would start that, and I wasn't going to start that work until I walked the site with Melissa, so that we could determine the peel back edge for the riprap, and then establish the limit of the wildflower mix. And originally we were talking on the order of 8 feet, and we've talked about maybe doubling that to 15, 16 feet. So that there's a nice swath of wildflower growth along the edge of the embankment, which is what you folks are looking for.
And Peter, I don't know if I think I mentioned this to Melissa when we spoke, Melissa, but I sent Peter a picture of the 2 bags of seed I have that were purchased from the place in Northampton or Holyoke or wherever it is out there. I got it through Cavicchio's. It was mixed specifically for this climate. And I have that, and then you blend that with a sheep's fescue, and that kind of mixes with the mix, and that's how they recommend you broadcast it in. So I have all that on site. It's in my storage area, because I don't know if you've got folks have noticed this in your own lives, but trying to get anything right now in a timely fashion, anything to relate to home improvements is next to impossible. So it took me 2 months to get that seed. So I have it on site.
And then the only other aspect of that would be that the O&M plan, which we would finalize with you as an ongoing condition, would be to probably mow that, making sense, like, one time a season, so that you're redistributing that wildflower mix. That's pretty much it. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you folks have. Sorry for the crude nature of the exhibit, but we do need to do some as-built work here, and I would deliver that to the commission before the actual work is completed.
Peter, I also want to mention that the work behind the main house, the sunroom and the pool, there was a carve out there. And if you look at the original plan that was done with historical way back when we did the CR, that area right there was always allowed for flexibility. That was like a carve out of what I could do what I wanted there, in the sense of the building. I'm not saying that.
Good. I'm glad you added that, John.
It doesn't obscure your permitting. I'm just saying, as far as what was approved by the CR, that is allowed. So I just want the board to know that I'm not, and I've already met with the board, all these little tweaks. The Board of Historical Commission has had formal votes on every step that I've done. I've gone through all that with the current chairman and the board, and submitted and everything else. So everything I'm telling you, I'm paraphrasing some of it, but it's all been in detail to them. So
I can attest, when we did the mechanical systems there at Deerfoot, I attended that meeting with John. So
the other thing I forgot to mention, but for those of you, in the technical side, where that transformer is and where the electrical building begins, that first wall had to be completely fireproof. That's why it was built with a 12-inch block, fully filled with the voids filled with concrete and rebar, and then stone veneered. That one wall that is parallel to the transformer, that had to be fireproof in case of an explosion on the transformer. So there's an awful lot of requirements from the electric company. It was a long, drawn out, extremely expensive endeavor, but it's done.
Okay. Any questions or comments from commission?
Peter, I'm sorry, you went through everything. In particular, the invasive management and wildflower planting along the shore in conjunction with the removal of the rock there, we'll be looking at, what are we looking at for a date on that approximately? What's the anticipated?
We're not removing it.
Within 30 days. I hope the weather is going to finally break, Ben. We're getting more snow.
I know.
But they say moderate temperatures next week. So as soon as we can get boots on the ground, that's what I said to Melissa in my email. We will do so, and then I will follow up with her. And then if any commission members want to attend and have a site visit, we could schedule that. And I would hope that we'd have things ready for you for the next meeting. So with 3 weeks from now, that's what I had said to Melissa would be my goal.
Okay.
I just don't want to submit something I can't give you on the ground field information. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to,
of course, yep,
wing it. I want it to be real. Okay.
Well, also, I don't think, Peter, we got to be very careful there, because there's no erosion right now. So I don't want to be in there, and it's either going to be frozen or it's going to be dry. Yep. One or the other.
Yep.
I'm not going to go in there and destroy the whole, the grading. You're going to make a big mess there. Whatever we're trying to accomplish, by trimming back a little bit of the rock here or there or whatever it is, you don't want to make a big mess there. I mean, right now, what's there is verbatim what was put there by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, verbatim.
Understood.
Well, yeah, I understand you had some dealings with them. I think our focus here is what was approved on the notice of intent, and so we have to look at it through that lens. That's our jurisdiction and our role. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
The generator, what is the fuel for the generator? And
It's-
is it stored on site?
Yep, it's underneath the generator. It's in a number 2 diesel. The rest of the site is all propane.
And is that's outside the buffer zone? I can't really
Well,
tell.
the pond is not the buffer zone. That was created as a landscape feature. So the answer to your question is yes.
But all the electrical stuff, that's all outside the buffer zone.
All the what?
All the electrical and the generator and all that, it's outside the buffer zone?
Yeah.
So any other questions or comments? I'm scanning through here. I don't see any. All right, well, thank you for the update.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So will you be back in front of us for the RDA next meeting, or?
I hope so. I know I have a filing deadline, so I'll try to satisfy that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, folks. Good to see
Thank
everybody
you.
again.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you for the update.
Okay. Have a good month.
night.
All right. So do we want to go back to Ruby Estates and deal with that now, or?
Sure.
Melissa, you had mentioned 2 items, so those are the 2 items I believe you were referring to.
Yeah, that I think people are waiting in the attendees for, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm reiterating. Yeah, I think that's the only 2 that have people here waiting, so.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't have a physical document drafted, but some of the special conditions that I heard, at least for under the notice of intents, would be signage along the 20-foot no touch to limit lawn creep. That septic plans be submitted to the agent prior to construction upon approval from the Board of Health. And I also put, I kind of made a note as we were discussing that maybe possibly a letter to the agent, an approval for removal of trees that are marked to be saved, but are later determined need to be taken down within the limit of work.
Sounds like a great idea.
So those are the 3 that I kind of had from this meeting. And I think Matt's been helping me out and looking at some of his comment letters to fill in some of the gaps. I don't know if Matt, you have anything that you want to bring up? I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know typically sort of the 20-foot buffer zone is the area that's that has the pheno stakes or signage or what have you, where they're, where they've made the effort to expand beyond that a little bit, and they have the areas to be seeded with a conservation mix. It seems like it would be appropriate to really have the limit of work that's shown on the approved plan be the permanent limit of work, to avoid sort of lawn creep going into those areas. So whether that's a plan that shows exactly that, or just referencing the existing plan, but having that, whatever the monumentation is along those areas rather than just the 20-foot, I guess would be a recommendation. I know they've added the new LID features as far as the drainage, the swale and things. I'm not sure the operations and maintenance plan was fully updated, so I don't know if we need to require a revised final O&M plan that reflects all that, because again, some of those features might need a little bit more specific maintenance requirements because they're a little bit different. Presumably, I think they had mentioned there was going to be a homeowners association, so maybe just a special condition that you receive a copy of that document so that you know whose sort of future responsibility for maintaining the drainage on the site. And I think and potentially a copy of the or having a copy of the stormwater pollution prevention plan, I think would be important as well. I think that pretty much covered the thoughts that I had.
So I think the biggest comment that might be up for discussion is in terms of the signage and what and where you want to put it, if you want it strictly at the 20-foot or at the limit of work, like Matt was just discussing. And I know we've used Pheno stakes in the past, but they're not as effective sometimes. You know, if it's something that we want, I know trees are kind of on the same line as somehow iffy sometimes, effectiveness if they get taken down or people unscrew them, where we've done split rail fences with signs on it in the past. So it's up to the commission if they want to be specific or if they're open for the applicant to kind of submit something and for your review and approval later on.
Hey, Melissa, just a comment, we need approval later on. I believe we saw a document earlier that said that we really can't do that. We can't make them come back for an approval. Is that correct? I mean, I don't mean to be picky, but I remember reading
No,
that.
I agree with what you're saying. This is kind of non-construction related. So it's something that maybe, you know, is possible to have them come back. Usually we ask for review and approval of just the signage type and the language. So it's better to specify a type. And I know Nathan just put in the chat if the applicant can discuss on the markers or not. I know the public hearing is closed, so that's up to you, Mark.
I mean, I think I'm hearing where the discussion is going. I think we need to be careful not to, you know, set new precedent here from what we've done historically with these markers, right? I mean, our bylaw is a 20-foot, you know, stay out of the 20-foot. That's where we put the markers. And I did hear the applicant talk about the wild seed mix and putting that down and letting that turn back to its natural state over time and not mowing it. So it sounds to me that putting markers around that would be appropriate. But I'm not sure we want to, you know, put markers at the back door of the houses. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But we haven't done that. We haven't done that in other projects.
I think one of the problems with that, with the wildflower mix, is that it doesn't go behind all of the houses. I think it doesn't hit lots 2 and 3, and it kind of picks up again behind 4 and 5. Because that, the limit of work is a little bit farther away from the 20-foot by about 10 feet, I think.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that, you know, you protect the 20 feet and you protect the wildflower mix areas, is the point I'm making. If you catch my drift.
Yeah, Mark,
the line of thought there.
I agree with you. Even though I would love to mark both boundaries, it doesn't make any sense to me to do that. You know, it just seems overkill. You know, it seems.
When you say both boundaries, what do you refer to?
Well, if there's a naturalized area that they've given up is the limit of work, right? And have them mark that and the 20-foot is, although in my heart I would like to do that, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense. You know.
So you're saying just mark the 20 feet?
What's that? Just mark. I would go with marking the 20 feet.
Well, that's what we've done. You know, that's the precedents we've set in town historically.
Yeah. I agree with you.
You know, we haven't hung markers at their cellar doors.
Yeah, right.
Well,
right.
I agree with that too, actually. I think it gets confusing if we start having markers in different places.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we would put markers at the 20-foot and the limit of work. It would be one or the other.
Yeah, I think we're saying the 20-foot.
Yeah, the 20-foot, yeah.
As far as the type of markers, I understand the concern that we should kind of specify. You know, we can also indicate to the applicant that if they would prefer a different type of marker, then please come in and ask for an administrative change, which we certainly can do. I mean, we can put something into our conditions, but then if they want to come in and, for an administrative change and change it to a split rail fence or boulders we've done in the past or what have you, I'm sure we would be open to that, if we want to not leave it open-ended in the condition.
I mean, that's what we've done in the past. So, once they get the lot, sort of landscaped, what works best.
So you just kind of want it to be the standard language that we usually do, that at the 20-foot buffer zone, signage shall be installed. The type and language shall be reviewed and approved by the commission prior to installation.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's just as you put it. That's what we've done historically.
Okay.
Mark,
Yeah.
I
Who's that?
this is Matt.
Oh, okay. I see you.
So I guess just a quick commentary on that. I know the commission historically has had the bound set at the 20 feet, but I think we all agreed that the applicant did a good job of revising the plans to pull, the grading and the disturbance further away from the 20-foot buffer zone. And I guess my fear is that if whatever markers or signage go in at 20 feet, the future homeowners are going to look at that and say, okay, I see the indications that the 20-foot buffer zone is there. Okay, good. I'll be sure to respect that and just expand their lawn down to that. And the efforts that the applicant made and the commission made to have the plan revised will be somewhat lost. That's my thought on the topic.
If they're talking about expanding lawn, technically they would need to apply for a permit if they were within the 100-foot, right? So it isn't, 20 foots, you don't touch it, but they should need a permit if they're within 100. So to me, it just sort of feels confusing if there's a marker that's neither of those things.
Yeah, I guess it's just if the commission didn't want that area protected, I'm not sure why we had them change all the plan up till now.
And we have had them put markers further up than the 20 at the hard limit of work when it doesn't correspond with the 20 to prevent that lawn creep.
I think what I heard is that the applicant made significant efforts to reduce fill and that sort of thing and try to preserve as much as the existing landscape, if you will, that's there today. So I think that's a win-win. I don't know. I just think, from my perspective, it gets confusing, right? We have a bylaw that has words in it. If we don't like what the bylaw says, we ought to change it. The bylaw says 20 feet, and that's where we historically have put markers. And I think it gets confusing to applicants as to, when we start to do different things in different situations. It leads to inconsistencies, and I don't know. I think it opens us up to. I don't know. I think it opens us up to potential liabilities. So that's my 2 cents.
Mark, it's Carl. I still agree with you. Again, my heart is what Matt is advocating, but in a practical sense, I think we go along the 20-foot, and as Jeff mentioned, that if they do want to extend their lawn, because they're not going to have lawn at the extent, if they do want to extend it, they should, although we can't make them, but they should come before us to ask to extend their lawn. I mean, that is the process, I would think, right?
Yeah. So, I know the consensus I'm hearing is the 20-foot as our typical condition as stated previously. Any other special conditions?
Is there anything lot specific? I think the only thing we really talked about specifically was on lot 3 and those 3 trees that were close to that grading in the back. But I don't know if there's anything particular we need to condition for that. I think the
You might want to make that
general.
general, because I know Matt pointed that out in that specific lot, but while we were looking at that, there was a lot next to it that had a similar 300 contour that was, you know, close to a couple of trees as well, that I just happened to notice that had a darker black line.
What
So
would you like? Is there a specific condition you were looking for, or just kind of a finding of fact about it?
I think the applicant's engineer made a statement that they were going to, you know, as they you know, worked to get the final grade and contour there, that they were going to, you know, use extra care and caution and protect those trees as a result of that. I think I remember him saying something about 6 inches.
Okay.
That I think he was going to have to deal with a grade difference of 6 inches and somehow and resolve that.
Okay. All right. So all of the things we have so far are for all 6 NOIs. Was there anything else on the wetland side? I don't think I have anything else. Okay.
Matt, did you say you walked in there today?
I was on the site today, yes.
Wasn't it kind of hard and crunchy in there?
Very snowy.
Yeah.
I wish I could walk on top. It was up to my knees about.
Yeah, I was just, you know, the snow is a little frozen on top. Must have been a little difficult for you.
I've seen worse. Hopefully not more this year though.
Anything else?
Great. For the stormwater decision, is there anything specific? I think it'd be good. The copies of the SWIP and O&M are already kind of in the standard conditions. And then I think maybe putting in the homeowners documents in there as well would be good practice. Even just putting that in as a standard in the future. I think I might add that in. That's a good comment to think of.
You said the homeowners, you mean the association?
Yeah, just the documents that it's formed and their responsibilities. I was just gonna check Amy's letter really quickly. But I think we addressed everything in the meeting. Yeah, it was more just about planting plans, and I think we are all set with Amy's. So we would just need a motion to approve NOIs 1067 through 1072 with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 conditions as discussed for all of them. And then for the stormwater permit for just the homeowners association docs as discussed.
In those DEP file numbers, are they all sequential? Are there any
Yes.
gaps?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to accept and approve the order of conditions as Melissa just described for the 6 lots at 96 Mount Vickery?
So moved.
Here a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Hasamato.
All right, I'm going to abstain because I missed the 2 middle meetings.
And then for the stormwater permit.
Okay, do I hear a motion to issue the stormwater permit for 96 Mount Vickery?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete. Pete,
Yes.
sorry, it didn't come through. It might have been my computer. I apologize. Guyer,
yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Hasamato.
Again, I'll abstain because I missed the middle 2 meetings.
With those, so I will draft those up. Probably finish them up Monday or Tuesday, since there's
All right.
them.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yes.
It's good to get something off the agenda.
Feels nice.
Okay. Are we taking on the discussion of the trailhead parking lot, Chestnut Hill Farm?
I just need to know where the commission wants to go in terms of picking up the discussion back about the trailhead parking lot. If we want to think about utilizing another special entity, whether it's SVT again or a special counsel who might be able to delve into the CR a little bit better, because I think we were pretty split kind of in the middle of if the parking lot was just limiting the town's ability to have 10 cars or if it's 10 cars, period. So I think there was kind of a difference in opinion, and the trustees want to come to a resolution one way or another. So it's, kind of what the commission wants to do to get to that next step.
hey, this is Carl. I'm coming. I mean, the CR says 10, and it just says 10, and that's what it says. I mean, I mean, if we talk about anything else, we'll talk about changing the CR, and that probably is not anything we want to do.
Well, and I think that's where the difference in opinion comes in. Even SVT, once it, kind of, I think Sherry was the one who originally brought it up, that it was limiting the town's, the language seemed to be just limiting the town's ability to not build more than 10 cars. And the state does allow kind of towns to bring their own, interpret the CR as they find necessary, as long as it doesn't conflict with the interest listed within the CR. So, it seems like there was, obviously there's people on both sides. It's just, what the commission's final decision would be, because we kind of just put it to the wayside when they came out with the proposal within the parking envelope in the farmstead. So that's kind of where we stand.
So when you use the word town, doesn't that include the Conservation Commission?
Right.
So I feel like I'm stuck in the middle, that I'm a commission appointed by the town and a member of that, and the town can't increase these spots to more than 10.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're wearing our town hat, we can't do that. But if we're wearing our commission hat in terms of the CR, that the CR may have flexibility that allows more than 10 to be there if the town didn't create it.
Right.
But if
So
we
that's
say
kind
more
of
than
where
10
the
is okay,
discussion is.
aren't we acting as a town board as well?
So it's the grantee versus grantors. So it's the town as the grantee. I always get the two confused.
Yes.
The grantor.
So we're basically saying that SVT having oversight of this could authorize more than 10 for the Chestnut Hill to.
No,
Yes?
We would still be
not
authorizing the more than 10. It's just we are giving permission for the trustees to build or to create their parking lot still within the parking envelope, but to hold more than 10 cars on their behalf.
Yeah, but we're the town.
Right. So I think that was what we kind of had discussed was,
I feel like
the
I have a
language-
split brain over this.
Yeah.
So the town didn't take over the parking lot, but if the owners of the property agree that they want the parking lot bigger, I think that's, Whit had a nice comment about coming to a mutual kind of resolution and creating a document that we sign and agree to say, we agree it still falls within the interests of the acts, and our interpretation is that this is permissible within the CR, and if it isn't, then that document wouldn't exist.
I mean,
So it's good for the future. We have that paper
yeah.
trail.
I mean,
We got an opinion from
let me
Aldo
just-
on this.
Sorry?
We got an opinion from town council on this that I felt was fairly definitive on the issue.
Which was we can only have 10 parking spots.
We have the right to have 10 parking spots. If there's 14 cars in there, we don't have the right to do that. But if they don't object, then they say, get out of our property, then it's okay.
Sorry, Carl, if who doesn't object?
If it's not the trustees of the reservation, if they don't object, we have the right to 10. But if there's 14 in there and they don't object, they can say, get 4 out of there. They can't tell us to get all 10 out, all 14 out. They can say, get 4 out of there, but we can keep 10. That's our right. So if they don't object, they don't have the right to create more parking spots, which is funny because they can only have them in the Farmstead area. It's really I've referred to this as a deadly embrace. This is kind of a funny thing. So if we don't do anything, and there's more than 10 cars there, and they don't object.
So we're saying then that de facto, you can park as many cars on that parking lot as the vehicle,
No.
the physical parking of the vehicles allows, but we can't physically identify more than 10 spaces.
Right, we have the right to 10 spaces, period.
Right, but if everyone
It's
parks
there.
close and you can get 17 cars in there, that's okay. As long as everyone agrees that it's okay.
Yeah, somebody brought up the thing about motorcycles. I think it was Mark a long time ago. Brought up the thing, what if there's 20 motorcycles in there, right? But it's 10 parking spots we have.
Yeah, so I
think we're actually overdoing this.
Yeah, Carl, I agree with you.
I think we're missing a crucial point, which is the purpose of the parking spots are for access to the trails, are for public access to the trails. I think that language to me was pretty clear within the CR before we even get to the number of stalls there.
So Ben, I think you're spot on that there's 10 parking spots in that envelope between the wall and the split rail posts. There are 10 spots in there for trailhead parking. If on a given day there's 13 cars in there, there's 13 cars in there.
We're certainly not going to tell people to leave, and I think whoever said
We're
it,
not going to call a tow truck on them.
Yeah, I think Mark, you might have been the one to say it. The trustees, the reservations are the underlying landowner. Geez, I hope I'm not wrong in this. I think they would have the ability to say, wait, nope, more than 10 cars, get out of there. I don't know that anyone's proposing to do that. Where I get hung up on is where the purpose of the parking is sort of defined within the CR. And I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, oh, the CR doesn't actually mean what it says in black and white. We're gonna say that it means something else. actually, I shouldn't use such, harsh language. I understand folks who feel differently. That's just where I fall out on this.
But the trustees aren't proposing trying to define more than 10 spots there anyway, Melissa, are they? Because they now have enough parking because they've expanded within the farmstead parking to.
Yeah, so this wouldn't be for the site plan. I think this was still a standalone project that they were still trying to get the commission's view on, and if it was possible or not, and trying to upgrade the parking lot and maybe make it a little bit more bigger in that envelope, to fit the cars better.
So my observation is, as soon as you start trying to change the parking lot, then you get into well, are you creating more than 10 spaces, and we can't have more than 10 spaces, and how do you stop people parking there and they go to the trails or they walk up the road because they don't want to walk on the snow, they want to walk on to me it's just it's just like it's a matter of what in the UK we call common law. I don't know if you have that over here. It is what it is unless someone chooses to challenge it and make it much more formalized. And I think what I'm hearing everyone say is we don't want to do that. We're not asking for more spaces to be identified. The trustees aren't asking for more spaces to be identified. If more people can squeeze in there to make use of the facilities, so be it.
Yeah, and I think just to clear that up quickly, I think this, there technically would be requesting more parking spaces. So I think that still follows along in your point. So if the commission is not open to the idea of the parking lot changes, then we can end this discussion, and I will report that back to them that we're gonna stick with kind of the original opinion of town council and kind of what was originally thought of as it not being allowed.
Do we know the nature of the improvements they want to make? I mean, they want to make it much bigger. If they don't draw lines, then they haven't necessarily identified more than 10.
There's not that much space left in the envelope, but I think they wanted to, understand if the commission would be open to the idea before formalizing plans.
Hey, Jeff's point, if they wanted to develop the full envelope as parking, I think that's perfectly congruent with the CR. The envelope for parking.
I thought that was what we've been discussing.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding is the trustees want to enlarge it, A, and then B, want to use a part of it in a formalized way for functions other than public access to the trails. For instance, and again, that's where I get hung up. There was a purpose spelled out in the CR for that parking envelope.
I thought they didn't need that anymore because they found the spaces for their function barn within the farmstead.
Not to speak for the trustees, but I think that would be part of the, while it's not required, they don't need those spaces for the barn. They would probably still want to utilize some of those new spaces that they would create, as overflow. And that's kind of where we had that discussion of, if that were to happen, then we would, ask for them to designate whether it's that 10 spaces or, an equivalent number as trailhead parking only, whether with a sign or something similar.
I think the only thing that they can do is they can go in and they can create a place and say, these are your 10 spaces. And that's it. For a lot of those 10 spaces, they could say, this is where your 10 spaces are. As long as it's big enough for parking, we get 10 spaces. That's it.
I mean,
they can't create any extra spaces either.
I mean, if they made a bigger lot, slightly bigger, or within the current envelope, and they marked off 10 reasonably sized spaces and left the rest unmarked, people could park in those other spaces. But there aren't spaces. That other area, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, and then you mark those 10 as trailhead parking, and then there's more area.
think we're overcomplicating this.
Yeah.
I think we're flipping.
I
We're
think
flipping
that
opinions.
CR says that there's 10 parking spaces provided for trailhead parking access. And if they can get 20 cars in there for trailhead parking access, they can get 20 cars in there. That is what it is. We're not going to throw them out. We're not going to throw their cars.
Mhm.
But we're not going to say that, hey, you can have 15 official parking spots in that area so that you can also use that for your farm stand functions.
I agree. Well put, Mark.
Because,
think
you know,
that's
town council and
spot on.
others have said that goes against the CR.
So have we kind of switched a little bit in the terms of if the trustees came to us with a proposed plan to upgrade the parking lot within the parking lot envelope, the commission would be open to possibly allowing that?
As long as it's only 10 spaces.
I don't see what benefit they would get
That's a waste of time.
coming up with a proposal to upgrade the parking lot. I mean, the only thing that I think we've talked about them doing is making sure that they fill the potholes in, or whoever is, I think, is it us? Is it them or the DC or DEP? I don't know. And they did come in and fill the potholes up. So I agree with Mark. I think you can make this so complicated, and then all that happens is someone will say, "Oh yes, but the status quo seems to have worked really well all through 2020 when everyone was desperate to get out there." I mean, we know from being out there when it was first opened back up again is that people were, super grateful to have the access. And yeah, I mean, there's a big turnover of cars and there's often more than 10 cars parking there, but I've not heard anyone say, oh my gosh, people are parking on the road, or we can't get in there, or, you've destroyed the ambience of the property. I just, if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. That would be my view.
Let the sleeping dog lie.
Yeah.
I can definitely report that back to them, and we'll go from there. If they want to try something, then we'll deal with it. But I will definitely relay what we've just discussed to them and see where they take it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
And there's a number 5 here, but my agenda is blank next to it because I think I ran out of the whatever color that was in my printer.
Approval of master plan goals and recommendations for conservation. So this is Judith.
Oh, okay.
I will share the document on the screen.
I need to step away for a second to use the restroom.
Okay. Do you want me to wait for Mark? We should probably wait for Mark.
I don't think there's anything else to update you guys on in the meantime. We have a couple new applications in the next meeting. I think I have 2 so far, but the deadline's tomorrow. So we'll see where that gets us. The exciting time.
So I'm sorry I was late. I'll just fill it in. I'm actually in New Hampshire right now, and we were all set to be on time to come back for 7. We've been hiking today, so. And then unfortunately early in the day, Keith had a bit of a fall and ended up with a bloody cut nose, which delayed us by about half an hour while we made sure that he was okay and could get down safely. So, but he's fine.
Where did you hike, Judith?
Where do we hike?
Yeah.
Today we did Madison and Adams today.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
10 miles, 5,000 feet of elevation gain.
Wow.
They're probably the best. I mean, we couldn't have asked for better conditions. They had about 2 or 3 inches of fresh snow, but it had slightly thawed. And so the top of the snow was really kind of crunchy. So it was pretty easy to move around. And there's a lot of snow up there. So it was and no wind, absolutely 0 wind, which is just incredible at this to hike at those sort of summits and not get any wind. So
Are you in with the group that's you're trying to do so many summits? I forget what the number is.
oh yeah.
Are you on that track?
Yes, yeah. Well, so there's the 48 peaks over 4,000 feet. Yeah. So I'm now, I have 43 out of 48 in winter. I've got them all once, so I'm doing them all in winter now.
Oh, wow.
That's this is my 2021 COVID project. Yeah, and Keith is what they call a gridiot. So he and his buddy Joe, they hike every peak. Their goal is to hike the 48 in every month of the year. So not the same year, but they 576 peaks.
Am I hearing 12 times 48?
12 times 48, yeah, 576. Keith is 85% of the way through. Our friend Joe is 6 left to do for his second grid. Yeah, the phrase "get alive" kind of springs to mind, but it keeps them busy. Okay, Mark is back. Excellent. So, see if I can. So I just wanted to bring this back. I won't kind of labor it too long, but so we looked at the master plan goals and objectives for this. This is the open space and environment sections, and we looked at them way back last year. I think this spring last year. So in the final stages of reviewing and approving these goals and recommendations, we're actually writing the report now. We've decided as a committee that we will write the report ourselves, as opposed to spending lots and lots of money, which we don't have anyway, to get a consultant to write it. So I just wanted to quickly update everyone here, because we've done quite a lot of wordsmithing, really, and kind of really trying to tighten up the language in these recommendations, but also, some of it was a little bit, I guess there was some duplication in there. So the first goal here is around strategic acquisition, protection of properties, which we've not changed too much in here. The one I think that's in here that specifically refers to the Conservation Commission is 1.5, which talks about town-owned property, town-owned open space parcels transferring to the care and control of the Conservation Commission, which I think we've talked about here. And this is a 5 to 10 year plan, so it's not that we have to do it all this year, but so that one is out there. We then just goal 2 is around connectivity and access to open space, and that's really making the spaces available to everyone, and doing more work on kind of education and updating trails. So this is really about, a lot of it is about trail management. So stop me as I go through if there's anything you want to talk about. So number 3 is really about managing open space. And this one is, you'll notice 3.5, which I know we're not talking about at this meeting, but this actually came up, this was raised by a number of people in our survey process, so that is obviously on there. So that is the 3 goals on open space. If you then go to the next one, this is about environment, and environment is a much bigger section in this year's master plan than it was in 2008. In 2008, I think there was a little paragraph. So the view was that it's a big opportunity area for us here. And this is the one I particularly wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. This is about stormwater, and we had previously included a goal around making sure that the stormwater bylaws reflected federal, state regulations, but also the projected impact of climate change. And this is where we talked about taking the opportunity to review our bylaws and kind of upgrade them. So things like NOAA 14, I think it is, we can include in that. So that was really 1.1 to 1.4 was that kind of formalizing that process so we could do that. And then 1.5 to 1.8 are actually recommendations, again, linked to kind of water, stormwater runoff, which came directly out of the MVP summary of findings. So Melissa and I worked with Mimi Luttrell to kind of map the MVP summary of findings against the master plan. There were 4 main areas of focus in the MVP: stormwater, invasive plants, gosh, my brain's going. Oh,
Just infrastructure.
Hazard mitigation infrastructure and emergency response. So we've kind of put what we agreed was, rather than having a separate MVP section in the master plan, it makes sense to integrate the recommendations into it, the kind of plan structure as it is, because we have to conform with what the state regulations are to get the money. So 1.5 to 1.8 cover what was in the MVP. We've also, just this last couple of meetings, put in 1.9, which is and this one, you know, will obviously take some work because it's got to go to town meeting, not this year, would be to create what we've referred to as a tree canopy protection bylaw. So looking to kind of limit what, you know, both residents and businesses can do in terms of just clearing trees out. And I think I know Mimi felt very strongly from a planning board perspective that this was a good one to have in here. And I think everything I've heard at the Conservation Commission about, you know, concerns over clearing trees, not only its impact on stormwater, but just on the aesthetics and you know, the natural habitat. This would be a good one for us to do. And then the next 2 here are around recycling and
Question on that set?
I'm sorry?
Can I ask a question on that last set? If you could scroll up. Can you hear me? Yeah. So when we talk about the bylaws, are you only talking about stormwater, or would we also consider under, I guess, 1.1, you know, some of the things that we've sort of touched on in previous meetings, like, you know, do we want to consider a 25-foot no touch or something like this? Would that be under 1.1, or is there any discussion of looking at the wetland bylaw?
We could add that in. That was actually in the MVP. We didn't put it in here, but we can add something in around looking at both wetland protection and stormwater for sure.
And my other question about whether it's in the scope of this already is we had a couple discussions in some previous meetings about the sort of road snow storage and dumping, and the fact that it didn't seem to be covered by any local bylaws, or at least it wasn't clear. Should there be some kind of permitting or requirements around storage of large amounts of the plow material, just because of the nature of the salt and runoff that comes from that? Would that be considered under 1.1 here, or was that discussed?
We haven't had that conversation in the master plan group, but again, we can define these recommendations however we want. So it's perfect timing for doing that now. So I can update these so that we reflect that as well. Thanks, Jeff. That's great.
Sure.
That's
Yeah, I
great.
mean, assuming other people agree, I'm just sort of floating those things we've talked about.
No, I think it's great. I think it's great. So 2 is around recycling, 3 is around non-renewable natural resources. Again, as I said, much more emphasis on those in 2020. They were teeny weeny bits in 2008. And then the last 2 are around native plants and invasives. And there were at one point, there was about 12 different recommendations here. So I kind of went back and did a bit of a scalpel job because it was very detailed. So I think these are, I mean, detailed in a way that didn't really add value to it. So I think we've got some, you know, robust kind of umbrella recommendations here. And you know, one of the things that we keep on talking about in the master plan, I bang the drum every other week or every other meeting, is about they have to be measurable. So we haven't gone on to implementation plans and metrics yet, and we haven't even got to the point of saying, well, who's going to be responsible for making these things kind of happen. But I think there is one there on yes, the last 2 there, 5.2, 5.3, we talked about last year. And I think one of those ones was the native planting schemes was something that I think we asked kind of Freddie and the open space group to come back to us with a proposal. And so this kind of puts it into the formal plan. So hopefully we will we'll be able to get those to come to life too. So there we go. Anyone got anything else they think is missing, want to add? Don't think we should have in here?
Judith, there's a humorous point on 4.1. You say what to do if you find invasive species. Right? I think we should make an exception for the feral primates.
Okay.
Dead silent.
Point noted, yes. Yeah.
Go ahead. Nobody's even dare laugh at that, did you?
Everyone's laughing hysterically. It's just on mute, so you can't.
So Judith, I like the fact that you took a scalpel to, you know, 4.0 and 5.0 and, you know, trimmed it down so we weren't solving world hunger or boiling the ocean.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things I kind of took on across the whole master plan. So, you know. Yeah,
there used to be just a big long list of things.
Yes. Well, and Sam is still on, so he will. I know Sam is still on with us, and so he will attest to the fact that no area of the plan has not been gently curtailed, scalpeled. So
yeah.
But I think we met last week, and I think that I think the general view of the committee is we do have this is a robust plan, and I think people feel it's definitely achievable. One thing, just again as a bit of a background, and I know it's getting late, so I won't kind of drone on, but one of the kind of big things that we've done this year is made sure that we don't have lots of very generic kind of recommendations around things like zoning, because so many of the recommendations didn't in the 2008 plan were all about changing zoning, and it just really never managed to get through either the planning board or the town meeting. So what we've done on the zoning side is said, if there's a specific project that needs changes to zoning, like the downtown initiative, then we'll include recommendations around zoning in the context of that project, as opposed to say, well, here's some, let's change everything. So.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Thank
Right,
you.
very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, is Matt still on? Anything from him in terms of updates or anything? Or did he bail? Oh, there he is.
No, I'm here. Nothing new or exciting. Just
All right,
waiting for the
thanks.
snow to melt.
Waiting for the snow to melt. Okay. Okay.
Just a heads up that St. Mark's is going to be starting their residential life building beginning in March. They're going to start putting up the fencing and then some erosion controls, and they're going to start building that nice big building. So get ready for that. I think that's kind of the main project that's on the horizon that will be starting soon.
Okay. And then where we have other business as may arise, that now needs to be pretty much limited to things like what Melissa just brought up. Sort of general housekeeping items. It can't really have any sort of specific item that may be of interest to the public. That needs to all be now put on the agenda and published, in a formal way. So that we got that readout from town clerk and the board of selectmen, because in this way that we're operating, people look at minutes and see what's coming up. They can join, the public hearing and listen in or participate in something that we're going to discuss that has, a level of public interest and concerns. So it's a little bit of a operational change than what we've typically done historically. All right, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna go have dinner.
Me too.
Mind if we circle back to the minutes from January 20?
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Thank you for keeping us honest.
Thank you, Katie.
Anytime.
Yes.
True MVP.
Yes, it's the minutes from January 28th. We need to circle back because Russ had some comments.
Yes.
And the mute's off. So 121.
128.
Yes, page one or line 121.
Got it.
It's a discussion of the septic system and the overdig. And this relates, I wanted to bring it up just so that everybody understands exactly what's going on. I know Ben gets it, but there's still work being done outside of whatever that measurement is, because this is a 5-foot overdig sideways that, when they show us the plan and it's 52 feet away, well, in reality, it's 47 feet away. And it's a math game with everybody and they all get it, but just so everybody understands why I brought it up the other day was because I wanted to know what they were really doing. So that was a sideways measurement on that. And I think it should probably read, noted that there is a 5-foot sideway overdig on most systems. And the other one that came to mind is line 127. And this is groundwater separation. So they needed to obtain a waiver for groundwater separation. And that's another big distinction for us because, well, that's what our job is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, good
Russ, was
updates.
there also something about when you joined? Or am I making that up from earlier?
Yeah, I didn't pay as much attention that night, but I think
I think you came in while Mark was still reading the intro.
on the first hearing?
Oh, no, you're not there. So never mind.
Because I wasn't there in the end.
So Melissa, do you know that you can identify, are you talking about tonight?
No.
Oh, because you can use the record tool in Zoom and you can find out who was there for how long. You know how to do that?
No.
Oh, I should show you.
You know
Every
way
Zoom
too
meeting
much
I
about
hold, I
Zoom.
have to do that.
Oh, God. Okay.
There's a record button and you can hit the participants on the meeting and it'll tell you how long how many minutes they've been involved in the meeting.
That's exciting. Okay.
Whether they're
I.
using Zoom or on their phone or however they joined.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Big Brother's watching.
Okay, Russ, I will review the video and get the time when you came in and make that note. I think that would be it.
All right, so do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of 128/2021 as amended by Russ and will be amended by Melissa, adding the arrival time of Mr. Gregory to the meeting?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor by roll call vote.
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Thank you, Katie. You are a lifesaver.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, that sounds like a first, second, and third. Okay, by roll call vote.
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
All right. You're adjourned.
All right, everybody. Stay healthy and
Thanks,
safe.
Bye.
You
Bye.
too.
Night. Enjoy
Bye.
your dinner.